Hi friends, it's Mimi here. Welcome back to Kid Stories and More. Now, last week we did a segment based on a book called What Would You Do? A Kid's Guide to Tricky and Sticky Situations. Do you remember this? Did you review it with your family? Did you make plans for each and every one of these situations that we went over? We went over 3 different sticky situations that could happen at home. Today, we're going to focus on a different area. There's plenty more to do at home, and we'll come back to that. I plan on making this a weekly or bi-weekly series. Today, we're going to be talking about on the way to or from school, or things that might be going on at school. There's lots of things that can go on, especially if you walk or ride a bike or, to get to school. So let's take the first scenario. The first scenario is called broken glass. And what it says here, on the way to school, you trip and fall. Luckily, you're not hurt, but the 2 glass jars you had planned to use for your science experiment now lie shattered on the sidewalk. What are you gonna do? Well, let's think about this. I need this for my science experiment, right? My teacher's expecting me to bring it in on time. But in the meantime, there's shattered glass all over the ground. I can't leave it here. Luckily, I didn't get hurt, but someone else might. What am I going to do? Think about this. What would you do? Well, first things first, you want to be careful. Only pick up the larger pieces that you can carefully pick up without touching the sharp edges and hurting yourself. You don't want to cut yourself. Okay, and put them off to the side where other walkers will not get harmed by them. If there's a garbage can nearby, that would be great. Now, if you're near a friend's house, what you could do is knock on the door and ask them if you could borrow a dustpan and broom, because that way you don't have to touch anything, and that'd be the safest thing. And then you could take the glass and just dump it in a nearby waste bin or ask them to use their garbage can. I'm sure they won't mind. That would be a great idea. Now, let's say you're not near the neighbor's house, you're almost at school, or you just don't have a neighbor that lives around this part where you are. And what do? You can't leave the glass there for someone else to get hurt. So you could try and find a piece of cardboard and kind of scoop it, into another piece of cardboard or paper and then dispose of it. You could use your notebook or folder for that, right? And then just make sure you shake it all out so you don't leave any pieces left, and then push them off the sidewalk. If there's no garbage can nearby, at least get it onto the grass or to an area where nobody's going to be walking. That's the main thing. And what do you do when you get to school? That's right. You immediately tell your teacher and tell them what had happened, and I'm sure that they will allow you to bring in new jars the next day. And when you get home, definitely share with your parents. All right, let's find another thing that could go wrong. We want to be prepared for these things before they happen, not wait until they happen. Okay, flat tire. Now, for those of you that ride your bike, this is for you. While you're riding to school on your bike, one of your tires goes flat. Oh no. Your house is 6 blocks away and you don't want to be late for school. So what do? That is a tough one. You can't be late for school. And in the meantime, what do you do with your bike? What do you think you should do? That's right. It takes a village. See if you're near one of your neighbor's house and ask them if you can leave the bike with them for a while you're at school, and then pick it up on the way home and just kind of walk it back home. Because you don't have to schlep it there with the flat tire and then schlep it all the way back home. This way, at least, you could leave it there, if that's an option. If, of course, you don't know anyone in that neighborhood or where you're at the point, then, of course, you'll have to walk it to school. Now, this made you a little bit late, so what do? Smarty pants, kiss your brain. You would go to the office, because you're going to have to go to the office to get the late pass anyway, and just tell them explain what happened. And you could even show them the flat tire so they know you're not just making up a story, and I'm sure they'll help you out there. Now, while you're in the office, you should definitely use that time, or if you have your own cell phone, to call your parents, let them know where you left the bike. If you left it at a neighbor's house, maybe they could pick it up and give you a ride home later, or just so they know, what the situation is going on. So if you had to abandon your bike or leave it at a neighbor's, definitely let your parents know and see if you can get a ride home with them or hopefully a friend. Okay, now, kids, parents, teachers. This is something we never, ever, ever hope will happen to any one of our kids, but it is a possibility. So this is something you definitely, if you haven't already, need to discuss with your children. Suspicious driver. As you're walking to school, a car pulls alongside you. In a friendly voice, the driver asks how to find a particular street, building, or address. When you do not answer, he becomes upset, or she. In a gruff voice, he or she tells you to get in the car and help them find it. What do you do? Now, obviously, this is a parent or a parent's worst nightmare, but we need to know. We always tell our kids never talk to strangers, ignore them, but this is a possibility, and what do we do if ignoring is not enough? What do you think you should do? This driver didn't get the hint that you weren't going to give him or her directions. You do not stop walking. If you can run, great. If you're loaded down with backpacks, you're in a group. Keep going. Do not stop. Do not engage. Do not even look at that driver. Stay as far away from the car as possible. You're on the sidewalk. If you have to run through somebody's yard to get away, you do that. And you do what you have to do. You get away from, you don't want to stay close to the curb where he or she could possibly grab you. If the suspicious driver goes away, what should you do? Now, like I said, if you need to run through somebody's yard, you could run right up to somebody, even if you don't know the person. If you're near a house, if you're passing by a house, I would run right up, bang on the door, ring the doorbell and say, there was just a car following me. Don't go into their house, but let them know and they can call 911. That's first and foremost. That would be ideal. If you are near another residence, just bang on the door, ring the doorbell. Hopefully somebody comes out. That will most likely discourage the driver, and they'll just pull away because they see that you're running and you're going for help. It says here, if the suspicious driver goes away, write down the numbers and letters on his license plate and the kind and color of his car. Now, we had mentioned this once before if you saw a suspicious car in your neighborhood. If you have a phone, you could quickly snap a picture of it. That would be ideal because then you'd have the actual picture of the car and license plate. If not, if you can write it down or remember any part of it, that would be great. And what would you do as soon as you got to school? Okay, you kept going, you made it to school, you ran to school, you got there. What's the first thing you do? You run in your homeroom, you run in that office, you tell an adult, a teacher, a principal, the secretary, whomever you hit first, whoever you run into first, the librarian. You explain what had just happened, and they will make the calls to your parents, to the proper authorities, to make sure that that it is reported, because this same person could have also talked to someone else on the way. And we want to know what street you were on, because anyone else that's still walking to school, we want to know and get patrol cars out there to drive around the neighborhood so that doesn't happen to any other child, because they may not be as lucky, they may not think, and hopefully they would never get in the car. If the suspicious driver continues to follow you, like I said, go to the nearest home where where there's signs that there's someone home. There's a light on. You hear the TV blaring from the window. You think somebody's home. Explain to the first adult you see. Maybe somebody's walking a dog. Maybe you see somebody down the block walking their dog. I would run to them and explain what happened. Chances are they will have a phone on them and they can call the authorities right away. Be safe. Share these points with your children. Have these discussions at the dinner table, at the breakfast table, when you're in the car, whenever you just have a few minutes. Bring up these scenarios, watch these videos, and have these conversations of what works for where you live and your neighborhood, and what you would feel comfortable your child doing in any of these sticky, tricky situations. Next time, we will have some more scenarios. I hope they never happen to you, but if they do, at least you'll be well prepared, right? So we will see you again soon on Kid Stories and More with Wake Up Brain with Mimi. And share, like, comment down below what kinds of scenarios you'd like us to discuss in this series. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.